And welcome back to the show. Time to take a look now at another Boxing Day movie that was released on Boxing Day. And this one is a little bit of a romantic comedy called Anyone But You. It's from director Will Gluck, who has made a bit of a name for himself over the years for making some pretty awesome movies. He, of course, made Friends with Benefits, the Mila Kunis Justin Timberlake film. He made Easy A, which was the film that kind of launched the career of some pretty famous people, including Emma Stone. But he also did Peter Rabbit. A lot of people forget that Will Gluck directed Peter Rabbit, but he has made some amazing films over the years. So there's a lot of people excited about the fact that there's a new romantic comedy out from him called Anyone But You. Now, this film, I've got to say, kind of surprised me because I saw the trailer for this film and I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to watch this film because I've got to review it. But I have to say the film actually ends up being a little bit better than what the trailer made it look. So it basically tells the story of Ben, a successful businessman played by Glenn Powell, and he, while in the United States, inadvertently meets up with B, played by Sydney Sweeney, who is currently at that stage studying law but doesn't want to be studying law. In fact, she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. They meet, they have a day together, and it's an absolutely magical day for both of them. But then something bad happens. B unexpectedly tries to sneak out the morning after they've slept together. And in anger, Ben tells a friend basically a bunch of untruths, how the night didn't mean anything to him, that the girl is a walking disaster. She has tried to sneak back in and overhears that. So they never see each other again after that. But then flash forward, and suddenly they're put back together again when their friend Claudia, played by Alexandra Shipp, or Ben's friend Claudia, played by Alexandra Shipp, becomes engaged to and is about to marry B's sister Hayley, played by Hadley Robinson. Suddenly, the two not only have to be together for the wedding, but they also find themselves having to travel to Australia, where the wedding is going to take place. And it is there that the fireworks really start between these two. They try to hold it together in order to not wreck their friend's wedding, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult, especially when Ben suddenly finds himself having to share the space with his ex, Margaret, played by Charlie Fraser, and her brand new boyfriend, Beau, played by Joe Davidson. And to make things even worse, soon B also has to have her ex there because her family are doing the best they can to try and get her back with Jonathan, played by Darren Barnett. So this is not just a love triangle, it's a love rectangle, cube, whatever you want to call it, because it's got so many different sides. But like I said, this movie, the trailer kind of made this look like it was going to be a really, really bad film. But I have to say that there's parts of this movie that are pretty enjoyable. And I think it's the fact that they set these characters up as being pretty likable characters, because this film is not as funny as, say, a comedy like Bridesmaids or something like that. This film doesn't have that comedy fire underneath it. It has a few moments that will make you laugh, but definitely not to the point of that. So I think where this film works for me is through its characters. Ben's a pretty likable guy. Sure, the stuff he said about B was pretty disgusting, but he didn't mean it. And I think as an audience, you realize that pretty quickly that that's not what he meant, and that he's really got feelings. And you can kind of understand how their friends are feeling about that. Like, I think one of the friends says at one point that he just wants to bash their heads together and shove them in a room together. And you kind of feel like that as an audience as well, that Ben's good for B and B's good for Ben. Right through to the point of when the exes show up, you kind of wish they would go away, because you do want to see this couple end up together. I thought one of the some of the great performances here were from the parents. Dermot Mulroney, Rachel Griffiths played two of the parents, and they play them very well. And then you've got Michelle Hurd and Brian Brown playing the other parents. And I think the parents, a lot of the time, steal the show. Brian Brown shows a real comedic side in this film that not very many of us here in Australia have got to see over the years. He plays a lot of serious dramas and thrillers and stuff like that. We haven't got to see that comedic side of Brian Brown very often, but it does come out pretty well here. One of the things that kind of annoyed me, and I think it annoyed you too as well, Lee, is the way that they kind of portray the character of Bo, played by Joe Davidson, but I get a feeling that they portrayed that character as a bit of a dumb Aussie bogan because that's the way Ben sees him. Rather than that's the way the character actually is. But look, I thought this was an okay romantic comedy. There was good chemistry between Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, which I think makes the characters of Ben and B seem more like they should be a couple. But what did you think of this one, Lee? Because I'm pretty sure this one is probably targeted more at a female audience than a male audience, to be honest.
I do think this felt more like a drama than a comedy, but it, of course, had amusing moments.
Yeah.
There was certainly...
Like the spider down the pants.
Some laughs in there, which I think you laughed at more than me. So while it might be portrayed as a romantic comedy, I think those moments you found more amusing than myself. Yeah, but I really did think that they got the actors right with this, with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. I thought they did, a great job, really of portraying a hate for one another at the start, but really deep down you could see that there was frustration because they actually liked each other and they both felt hurt. And so that really came through very clearly that this was a story of two people who, from the moment they saw each other, liked each other and wanted their relationship to go deeper with each other, but at the same time fear and pride got in the way, and it takes this movie, the whole movie, for them to realize that and to stop acting like they like each other in front of family and friends and to admit that their love is real. So yeah, I think that was done really well. But yeah, there were a few moments in the film, and you've already mentioned part of that, where I just thought, we've got Australian actors in this film and always one needs to look like a bogan. I mean, I think that there was not a need for that. I don't think it made it funnier. I actually was more annoyed that, here we go again. We have to have an Australian bogan. I quite enjoyed the character of Bo, played by Joe Davidson. And I just didn't think that there was a need to take it as far as they did.
Yeah, and Kyle and I talked about this for anyone that heard our review of Next Goal Wins as well, where they have a couple of the players who are supposed to be Socceroos in that, and they're bogans. And Kyle and I pointed out that if you look at our Socceroo team at the moment, most of those guys live the high life in Europe. They are not bogans. They're multi-millionaires that drive Ferraris and wear Versace suits. Like, Taiki Waititi's whole take on what an Australian soccer player is like is nothing like what the Australian soccer players are actually like.
Yeah, and I respect our surf culture. I love the beach. I love, the ability to surf. I think it's amazing. It's a fearless type of sport. You have to have no fear to do that kind of sport. And so, yeah, I guess I was just disappointed in
the director needed to watch an episode of Bondi Rescue to see what those guys are really like, because any of the Bondi Rescue guys could have played that character pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, they are fun, though. Let's admit it. And so, there were parts of his character I really liked still. I really liked the character. I just thought they didn't need to make him quite as, silly as he was. But anyway, but I thought the rest of the movie, it an entertaining movie. I don't feel like it's a really deep movie, but it was more drama than comedy, I felt at times. So I do think it's probably not for all, guys. I'm not sure if it's a guy movie.
I don't know, like I found myself watching this that I kind of emphasized with Ben, like that moment where everyone's saying, oh, he's an a-hole because of what he said about her. But as a guy, you kind of thought, well, if you're hurt, then that is the kind of thing that you would do. Like, first thing is just go off at your mate. Like, oh, and yeah, no, don't worry about it kind of thing. Like, it was just unfortunate that B heard that kind of thing, because I think even his friend realized it was just him venting. Like, he didn't mean any of the stuff that he said. So I think, yeah, for most guys, because it does show that really good that friendship between Ben and his mate. And I think that is what men are going to get out of this film. Like, seeing that. I think most guys can actually feel for what Ben's going through in this. But I also wonder whether or not this is going to be the movie that launches Aussie model Charlie Fraser. She plays Maggie in this. And let's just say when this film comes out overseas, everyone is going to be talking about that swimsuit that Charlie Fraser wears in this. She is an Australian model who is just branched over into acting. In fact, this is her first acting role outside of some of the modeling stuff that she's been in. But she's also going to be in Furiosa, the new Mad Max film as well. So you kind of wonder whether or not this is going to be the launching of her on the international stage as the next model actress that breaks out. So I was reading somewhere the other day that people are saying that will she be the next Margot Robbie that starts to take Hollywood by storm? So, yeah.
It's interesting how we think differently, because when I was watching it, I was like, what is she wearing? Like, I didn't have those thoughts at all.
I had the same thought as well. Like, that's not what Aussie women wear at the beach. But I get a feeling that is going to be a scene where overseas people are going to be, she's the girl that wore that. Kind of like Rebecca Judd, how Rebecca Judd made a name for herself by being the girl that wore that dress to the Brownlow Medal. So,
true.
Yeah.
But you really do hope that people make a name for themselves for their acting, not their body.
I thought she did well, though, in this. Like, yeah, I guess she's going to be someone that people are talking about after watching this film. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where her career goes now that she's in the new Mad Max film as well. The other thing, too, I thought this movie did really well is we talk about Australia wanting to spend money on tourism campaigns. Don't spend any money on tourism campaigns this year, Australian government. Just use this movie because it shows those Northern Shores and Byron Bay and all that area up so well of how beautiful it looks. Even the scenes of the wedding being shot around Bondi just looked absolutely amazing. So,
and even those beautiful shots of the Sydney Opera
harbour,
House and things like that were in it. So there's some great cinematography in this movie.
Definitely. So, look, if you like this kind of movie, go along and check out Anyone But You. It is a lot better than what the trailer gave it credit for. Lee, what are you going to give this one out of 5 and why?
I'm going to give it 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm giving it 3 out of 5 as well. This just classically goes to show why you can't always trust a trailer on whether you want to go see a film or not. But I'm giving it 3 out of 5. This film does have a general release, so check your local cinema guide to see where it is showing near you. It came out on Boxing Day.